What's good? It's your boy JayThat'sMe. Let's get into TNA Impact from February the 6th, 2025. A pretty okay show for the most part. For some reason, I thought TNA was going to do a TNA Plus event like they do almost every month, except for their major pay-per-views. Turns out they're not. It's just going to be another live episode of TNA later on in February, so that should be fun. So, we kicked the show off with Joe Hendry, his concert. So he sings Queens with the Champions. He changed the lyrics to Hendry is a Champion. He sings another song where he sings that the world is going to hell. But that doesn't matter because Joe Hendry won the belt, which is kind of funny. He sings that this is the part where someone cuts him off. So his music hits. Jake Something gets on the mic and says he went up to Santino Marella, and next week he's going to face Joe Hendry for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And Joe Hendry sings, I accept. So this was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. This lasted about a good, 6 to 8 minutes. Not bad. I really like what TNA is doing with Joe Hendry. I don't think that Joe Hendry will have a long reign as champion. I think once we get into Rebellion in late April, he'll probably end up losing the title, probably to Nic Nemeth, maybe. That's where it seems like the story's going. But we have to really wait and see. I know they continue to push Frankie Kazarian's sorry ass, but to me, I'd rather have Joe Hendry lose to Nic Nemeth when Nic Nemeth becomes a heel, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. All right, moving on. So, G Miller's backstage with Masha Slamovich. So, Masha says that she thrives in chaos, and she's looking forward to seeing who wins the Battle Royal. She talks about Cora Jade and says she draws her X's in lipstick, while Masha draws hers in blood. I love it. Love it. Really good stuff. Can't wait for Masha Slamovich versus Cora Jade. Should be a fun match. Now, Masha's going to be very stiff on Cora. So I do think that Masha is going to obviously win. But Cora's going to get that ass beat pretty damn bad. Moving on. First match of the night. Ace Austin defeats Tyson DuPoint from NXT. So he wins via the fold. And then post-match, Wesley and Tyreek, they attack Ace Austin. But the Rascals, they make the save with steel chairs. And I still do think that we'll probably get a 6-man tag. Probably either at Vengeance Day or maybe on the live edition of TNA. One of the two. So pretty good stuff there. Makes sense. I like what they're doing with Ace Austin, though. I really do like what they're doing with him. Moving on, we get a Tessa Blanchard promo. She's backstage. She says she's not going to be in the Knockouts Battle Royal because she's not a Punjeva, which is a bitch. I think that's Spanish for bitch. Am I right? I should be right in that regard. She says all the Knockouts are jealous of her, but she's not going to play by their rules. All right. That's cool. I still think the plan is for Tessa Blanchard to be the one who's going to dethrone Masha Slamovich. I don't know if it's going to be at Rebellion or Slammiversary. I think Slammiversary is too far, but I think Rebellion is perfect. And I could see this being like a trilogy between the two. But the Knockouts division in TNA has to be rebuilt. You can't just have two women in the whole division that are worth a damn. Jordan Grace is no longer there. And everyone else is basically mid. Basically. Even if you bring in Xia Li, a.k.a. Ling Li, if you bring her in, which I don't know where she is. We haven't seen her in a while. Is she injured? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking out loud. She could be injured. But outside of those three women, you need a better division. People like, knockouts like Heather Reckless and Ash by Elegance. Those are character wrestlers, but they're not believable as champions. Like, you would just have them be transitional champions. Even if you add Danny Luna in that regard as well, you put her in that category, she would still just be like a transitional champion. But you need main event women players for the division to mean anything and to really be, back to where it once was. If TNA can somehow bring in like a Mandy Rose or a Lacey Evans or somebody like that, maybe bring in also Indy Hartwell and maybe Tegan Knox, then maybe we could talk about having, a decent division. I'm not talking about Indy Hartwell and Tegan Knox, but I'm just saying if they were to bring in really like Lacey Evans and Mandy Rose, you could have a really good division. Even if they could bring in Paige, I think that would be great. Her contract with AEW is up in, my bad, it's up in September. I almost said December. I caught myself, but it's actually September. So I have to wait and see. But TNA has to start rebuilding their Knockouts division if they're going to be serious with it. Moving on. So this leads us into a vignette for 23 and Step the Lander. So Step the Lander says that for weeks everyone was talking about who 23 is, and it's her. She says the digital media title is hers, and she won it in the divorce. Mance Warner says he's going to cut up everyone that gets in his way. Mance Warner says there's no one that can stop him, especially not Sami Callihan. Okay, this is fine, but then again, who is Mance Warner? Who is this guy? I don't know anything about him. I really don't. And I think, like, this has been a dud. I'm not sure if I buy this. I'll give it time, though. I'll give it time. But feuding with Sami Callihan, not a good look. Like, Sami Callihan and Steve Maclin, those guys are gatekeepers. Those guys are also rans. And I think it's time for TNA to kind of get rid of them. Not just them, but a couple other people that are on this show still. It's time for them to get rid of them as well. We'll talk about that when we get there. A.K.A. Eric Young and the system. We'll talk about it. Moving on. So we then have the TNA Knockouts #1 Contender Battle Royal. So basically it was won by Savannah Evans. And so it involved Alicia Edwards, Tasha Steelz, Danny Luna, and Jody Threat. So Spitfire, Ash and Heather by Elegance, Rosemary, Xia Brookside, and Jazz from NWA, which is great. So Jazz got a really good reaction. Cora Jade was on commentary. She did okay. And Savannah Evans ended up winning. It makes sense because Cora played in the finish. She was involved in it. So she basically just distracted Xia Brookside, and this allowed for Savannah Evans to hit a headbutt onto Xia Li. My bad, Xia Brookside, and then she eliminated her. So this makes sense. She's going to be facing Masha Slamovich next week for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Nice. This should be a good match for Masha. Shouldn't be no more than about 10 or 12 minutes, something like that. And this is fine. So this makes perfect sense. Moving on. So I wanted to saw my fucking television in half because Eric Young's useless ass is still on there. And so he ended up cutting a long promo. So he comes up with the Northern Armory. He said that they run TNA Wrestling. So he talks about Canada and how the company has been ran by Canadian wrestlers for years. He mentions, Bobby Roode and the like, himself and others. He says no one's won more championships than him. He said that he's the one. He's above the fans. He's also above the president. He's above the owner. He says his first act was to eliminate Josh Alexander. He removed the walking weapon forever. So Steve Maclin, he comes out, and he says that he didn't expect this from Eric Young. He asked why he didn't just tell him. Steve Maclin says he put his trust in Eric Young, and he doesn't know. And he doesn't do that for a lot of people. He says that he went to war with the Northern Armory for him. They tried to end his career, and he's going to wash his hands clean like nothing happened the last 6 months. Like the last 6 months never happened. Steve Maclin says that he shares things with Eric Young that's been imprinted in his head forever. He says Eric Young made his choice about Steve Maclin, so he'll make his. As long as they're with him, he's not. So then Josh Alexander comes out. Him and Steve Maclin have a stare down, and then Maclin dips out. So Josh Alexander gets on the mic and says that he's sure that Eric Young said that he got rid of him, but he's still standing here. Josh says his time in TNA is coming to an end, but he loves TNA. Josh says he can tell everybody all he wants, but he's going to show everybody. He says he talked to Santino and asked for a match. He says no one spilled more blood and sweat and tears on the 3 letters on TNA than him. And he says that he'll face Eric Young next week, and he'll enjoy kicking his ass. So this was whack and lame. I don't care about any of this. This is the problem with TNA. I think the main issue with TNA is not their storylines or anything like that. I think it's just the talent. And that talent roster needs a massive overhaul. Sure, they got rid of like Rhino and guys like that. And who else left? Trent Seven and guys like that. But they need to get rid of fuck-offs like Steve Maclin, who's been there for 4 years. He even mentioned that in the promo. He mentioned that. And it's like, bro, you're a gatekeeper. If TNA can get rid of Eric Young, Moose, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, Alicia Edwards, just get rid of like at least 15 guys that serve purpose, and that way you can bring other guys in. It would be a lot better. Like, this is my issue with TNA. It's their roster. It's not the storylines. They actually do really good storylines. It's just the fact of the matter is, it's that fucking roster, man. It's that roster. So this was a horrible segment. Nobody cares. I think Josh Alexander is probably going to go to WWE. I don't see him going to AEW at all. It just wouldn't make sense because we've yet to see Mike Bailey debut on AEW television, and we were told that he was signed with AEW. So maybe he might be with Elias, or now known as Elijah. He actually has signed with Ring of Honor, and that's where he's going, which sucks because I wish that Elias would have signed with TNA, and he could have brought the Righteous with him, and that would have been great because the Righteous has been on TNA before anyway, a while ago, a couple years back when they're doing Honor No More. So yeah, that's when Vincent was there, but that was a couple years ago. But yeah, but this was a dumb, lame segment. Moving on. So Sami Callihan, he's backstage. He's asking people where Mance Warner is. He interrupts Frankie Kazarian. He asks where Mance Warner is, and Frankie says he doesn't know who that is. I would agree with Frankie on that one. Sami Callihan walks away, and then Frankie Kazarian calls Santino Marella and says that this is an unsafe work environment, and then Santino Marella says that he'll work on that. And I do think it is time to get rid of Santino Marella. I like him. He's good, but at the same time, it's time for TNA to move on from him or just make him more serious. Like, seriously. We get, his gimmick and stuff. It's from his time in WWE, but still, it's time for Santino Marella to actually get better. Moving on. So, the Hardys and Leon Slater, they defeat the System, Moose, JDC, and Eddie Edwards. Who cares? The Hardys won the match, so it was Leon Slater who hit the Swanton 450, and then Jeff Hardy hits the Swanton Bomb for the 1-2-3. Nice. Moving on. Mustafa Ali, he walks in on the good hands arguing. Pause. So Mustafa Ali says, if everyone's yelling, nobody's listening. He says, right now, they're good hands, but they could be great hands. And then Mustafa Ali sees Tasha Steelz crying when he says, when you give your heart and soul to someone, they stomp on your soul. He says, she's a great person, and he hates to see this happen to her. He says, they should do something about this, and he tells her to make sure nothing like this ever happens again to anyone ever again. All right, I like this. It seems like Mustafa Ali could be creating like a faction of some sort. That's interesting. I do like this. I want to see where this is going to go. Interesting shit, though. Interesting stuff. Moving on. Mike Santana defeats Matt Cardona. All right, cool. They're still trying to push Mike Santana. It's not his time yet. And again, I like Mike Santana. He's great. But it's not his time. And I don't feel like he's going to be that main event guy that TNA can really, really count on. Again, he's another person I look at as a transitional champion. He'll be champion for no more than about 3 to 4 months at best, and then that's it. Like, TNA needs more of a name value champion after Joe Hendry drops the belt. I mean, like I said before, maybe they do something with Jake something or whatever. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. But right now, Nic Nemeth is really the only guy that they have that's worthwhile, that's actually, a decent champion outside of Joe Hendry that has actual name value. Maybe Baron Corbin could show up. I know he's doing some stuff with GCW and stuff like that. But there's always hope that he could come to TNA. So I don't know. I have to wait and see how that turns out. Moving on, main event of the evening. Axiom, which is Axiom and Nathan Frazer, they defeat the Nemeth brothers, Nic Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth. So, basically, for Axiom, they win. And, so basically, towards the end of the match, Ryan Nemeth, he goes under the ring, he looks for something. He pulls out a steel chair, he's about to slide it into the ring and use it. Nic Nemeth stops him, and this allows for Axiom to take over and hit the win. So then Nic Nemeth, he's upset, and that was it. So I don't know what they're doing when it comes to Nic Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth. They need to kind of turn Nick heel, but Ryan Nemeth is actually atrocious as a wrestler. He shouldn't even be involved in pro wrestling. He should do anything else but pro wrestling, whether that's to be a manager somewhere or something like that, like a manager, or get like an office job, or be an insurance salesman or something like that. Anything else but pro wrestling, bro. Ryan Nemeth sucks, man. He sucks. But TNA was pretty okay. I like what they're doing with Mustafa Ali. I love how they're using Joe Hendry. I still think that they're going to end up turning Nic Nemeth heel, and Nic Nemeth will be the one to recapture the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, probably at Rebellion. I'm liking what they're doing with Masha Slamovich. She's great. So I'm still loving the TNA NXT crossover. I forgot to mention that Ariana Grace was on commentary during one of the matches. Can't remember which one it was. Oh, no, my bad. It was for the main event. So she was there for the main event. That was great. So good stuff there. I know a lot of people online have been saying that WWE is going to end up purchasing TNA, but they're not. Number one, what they're using TNA for in this crossover is they are sending talents that are green, like we saw Tyson earlier on. He needs some work. So that's what this is for. It's to send guys and girls who haven't got their in-ring skills together yet, to send them down there for a while. That's why Wes Lee is there. I mean, Wes Lee's good, but, could Wes Lee, if he's not on the main roster by the end of this year, could he end up being back in TNA? We have to wait and see. Because I don't see Wes Lee as somebody that would be successful on the main roster. He would be like another Carmelo Hayes, really. Just an okay little mid-carder, and that's it. So we have to wait and see how things play out. But all in all, TNA was okay.